Hey y'all, it's Lippy with Gemini Homestead. We're making sauerkraut. Now I know you're seeing a lot of videos of people making sauerkraut. Well, that's because it's that time of year. Just like tomatoes in the summer, cabbage in January, which we're in February, excuse me. We are February 1st. January doesn't slip by me. But I thought about, I do mine just a little bit different. So I figured I would show you how I do my sauerkraut and also bring you my interpretation of the science behind it. I think sometimes we take a recipe, we do a recipe, we love it, it's great. But for every recipe, there's actually science behind it. This being one of them. When you're fermenting, there's reasons behind it. So I figured what I do is I take you through my process, and as we letting it rest, I'll sit down with a cup of coffee and I'll give you my interpretation and how I understand the science. So we're going to get this cut up. Now I'm using my dad's knife. It cores a cabbage so well. I'm just going to take the ends off. Now, I will say, I took all the outer leaves and I've washed them. This is a blanket to our sauerkraut, but we'll get to that in just a minute. But it was sitting there and I thought I better let you know. Make sure you save your leaves, your outer leaves. Now I'm just going to come in, cut this one down the middle. Tell you what I didn't do. And I'm glad I've got the video going. Let me show y'all something that I almost forgot. Oh, there went my glasses. My towel's actually damp. If you have a damp towel, lay your cutting board on it. It's not going to move on you. You can even use a paper towel. Now I'm just going to cut it down the middle. And I'm going to stand mine up. See, they're standing up. This is the easiest way I found to get a core out of a cabbage. Now I'm going to come in with this blade and I'm just going to go around that core. Yeah, you don't want the core in your sauerkraut, but you can put a little salt and black pepper on this core, and let me tell you what, you talk about good. Core's out. See? Completely out. But I mean, everyone has different ways, but I found if you just set the cabbage up on its side, that core will just, it's so easy to maneuver. There you go. Now, I'm just going to do one, and then I'll finish the others. So I'm going to move this blade, and I'm going to take it down the middle, okay? Remember how we had the core? All I did was take it down the middle. And then I'm going to come in, and this is where you can either do short runs, so it means you would start at the point end and go over, or you can do long runs. I prefer a long run cabbage, and I'll show you. And I'm just going to make very small slices. I want mine shredded. Now you can use a food processor, but y'all, I use what God gave me, my hands. And this is how we prefer ours. Especially if you're going to cook it down, put sausage, some people use bratwurst, or just eat it every day as a probiotic. So like I said, and I'll show you, see if I was to take it here, and some people may like that. You get a piece like this. Okay? I prefer a julienne. And that's strictly just a preference, okay? Just a preference. Now what you're going to end up with, and I actually pulled my scale out, because you want 6 pounds. But what I'm going to do is, because some of y'all may not have a scale, I'm going to actually weigh out 6 pounds, and then I'm going to measure it by volume, which is by cup. So you don't have to run out and get a scale. You can pretty well figure by volume. So I'm going to do it both ways for y'all. But I'm going to get this cut up and then we're going to move to weighing it out. It's about a 3-step process. It goes fast, but I just want to take my time and explain how I do it and some of the little flavors that I actually add to ours. Okay, it's all done. Here's my scale, and I weighed out 6 pounds of cabbage. And I tested myself because from what I remember, it was equal. Sure enough, 6 pounds of cabbage, you're getting about 2 cups per pound. So this is 12 cups approximately. And like I said, all I did was put it in julienne's. Now it's not going to remain in this bowl. This bowl is strictly for me to start making the brine. And that's all I'm doing. And a lot of you use sea salt, Himalayan salt. You know, you don't use iodized salt. I'm old school. I only use pickling salt or canning salt. I've probably got 10 of these boxes put up. I feel like there's a purpose and a reason. But then again, I don't like change. So I always go back to what I'm comfortable with. But I've got 3 tablespoons of pickling salt, canning salt. And this is all I'm going to do. I'm just going to move this around. And what this is doing is fixing to break down this cabbage. Oops. Piece of cord, you don't want that. Let me just set it right there. I caught myself going through it, but so all I'm going to do is kind of mix this around. I'll grab me a cup of coffee. We're going to talk about the science behind it. And some of the ingredients that I actually put ingredients in mine more than just salt. And then also the purpose and the science behind that. I think sometimes people get a little intimidated. Think about it, just the word fermenting. Okay, yeah, I know that Google is at everyone's hand's reach. But the word fermenting, you know, think about it, it could be intimidating to some. So you automatically are setting yourself up for failure because you don't even want to try. But if you understood the science and the reasons and the actual health benefits and how it goes from this to sauerkraut, it's truly amazing. It truly is. It actually goes through 3 stages in processing. 3 simple stages. So I'm going to get this mixed up, sit down with a cup of coffee, because this is going to sit for 30 minutes like this, y'all. I'm not doing anything right now. I want it to sit. That gives me time to talk to y'all and really get a better understanding of what sauerkraut is and fermenting. Now, I will go ahead and make a note. I love sauerkraut. Yes, I do. But I'm not a big fan on other things fermented. It's just not in my palate. It is my husband's palate. I'll eat this, yes, but not like he will. So I'm not going to make this recipe and tell y'all that I just absolutely love, you know, sour type fermented things, because I don't. But I know that my husband does. And so therefore, this is a pleasure for me. You know, I enjoy doing it. Okay, now we're at the table. Got us a cup of coffee. And I figured we'd go through the science behind the fermenting of sauerkraut. The same principle would apply to kimchi, for instance. And it's very simple. It's 3 little steps. But before I get into that, this recipe that I'm giving y'all actually came from a good friend of mine that's been gone about 18 years. But her mother wrote her a recipe book back in the 80s. And I've been blessed to have this. Well, her mom's from Pennsylvania, still alive. And there's a whole lot of pickling recipes in here. So I've always lent to that. And like I say, every recipe has a start to a finish. But somewhere in the body of that recipe is when we make it our own. We take away or we add, change up some of the ingredients to make it our own. You know, that's the way I look at a recipe. So I've got it from there. And then this book. Now, I don't know how long I've had this book. My husband bought it for me. But it's Pickled Pantry. If I knew how to put a link in the description, I would do that. But I tell you what, before I post it, I will give it my all and try. I know I've had it at least 3 years. At least. There's a lot of good information in here. A lot of good recipes. But I've taken this and this. And I've combined them, okay? Because I always had this and I added different things to it, my ingredients. But this gave me a little bit more understanding. So, this is my recipe. And I've made that information become my own recipe. So with that being said, mine is just not with the salt, the pickling salt, as you saw. I will actually be adding mustard seed to mine. I will be adding red pepper flakes to mine. And I'm sorry if the table's moving. And the key ingredient, and I'll explain why, caraway. Caraway seeds. I don't feel that caraway is getting the recognition that it truly, truly deserves. Y'all, caraway seed is like a probiotic. Cuts down on your bloating. It helps remove the bad bacteria in your gut. Heartburn. Actually, you could take this caraway seed and you could take just a pinch, which I will do that right now. After you eat. 2 or 3. I've even taken up to 1/8 of a teaspoon. Just kind of like medicine. After a big meal. You won't feel bloated. It'll help with the digestion. Y'all, it truly is a really good probiotic, and I just don't think it gets the recognition that it should. Do your research. I'm a big fan of caraway. But anyway, back to the science. I don't want to make the video long, but hey, if it goes 20 minutes, I feel it's very worth it because I think I want to reach out to the ones that really don't understand the process behind fermenting and what each step does. So like the first step we did, I added pickling salt, okay? What that's doing is that's pulling the liquid out of the cabbage. Cabbage is like a sponge, okay? So it's pulling that liquid out. Do you know what that liquid is? It's loaded in carbohydrates. So you've got the salt. It's loaded in carbohydrates. So you ask yourself, okay, what's the carbohydrates going to do? Carbohydrates is what feeds bacteria. It's what feeds it. It fuels it, okay? That is hot. Oh my. Well, I can't taste the caraway seed no more. Bacteria is what makes the lactic acid. Oh, I got that one right. Y'all remember that? I know I'm going to replay it and say, oh, I did say that right. Y'all, some words, I'm sure y'all understand, just doesn't come out the mouth right, you know. But if you start looking at the 3 steps that I was talking about, do your research. You'll actually understand when, say you Google carbohydrates. Actually look at the definition of that. Good bacteria. It's going to show you pictures, and you're going to be able to take that in action, because that's what I did to be able to understand it. It all calculated and made sense when I saw step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Now, the lactate acid is actually what pickles the cabbage. It actually pickles it. It's needed. So what I'm trying to say is when you start venturing into, say, fermenting, okay, And you're like, well, I don't really understand except it's pickling. No, it's not just pickling. And I think that if we do a little research and we actually see how it's broke down and the reasons why, we have a profound respect for science. We have a profound respect for a recipe and following directions and understanding the underlying information that we need to understand so we don't do something wrong. I'm not saying it always is like that, but we try not to do something wrong and then have to throw, 6 pounds of cabbage away. And we're just going to use sauerkraut, for instance. But it's the same principle across anything. I think that each time we see something that's a little scary to us, or it's waters we've not tread before, maybe we need to just stop and do the research behind it. It gives you just a different perspective and a great appreciation. Plus it gives you knowledge. So as that right now is feeding, making carbohydrates, I hope that I'm also feeding you with a little knowledge of my understanding, my interpretation. Just don't take it from me. Take the information I've given you and get further in depth to it. Go as far as you want to go. I understand it in my way of understanding, but just this little bit of information may help y'all, want to venture out and really dig deeper into it. So as the liquid is coming out, and that's what we're doing right now, the lactic acid is being created, and that is dropping the volume of your cabbage. Yes, you're going to see it actually shrink. You saw that huge bowl, okay? I'm going to ferment mine in a 2-gallon glass food grade container. I'm doing that because it's got a wide mouth and I'm able to manage and mash down with these hands instead of using tools. Tools is great. But when we go to the next step, I'm going to share, I have 3 of these. I recommend buying one, later on buying it. They're like $10. It's a 2-gallon food grade glass container with a lid. I use that for all of my pickling. That's all that I use them for, is my pickling. That way I can see what's going on. I have room to work within that mouth of the 2-gallon jar. It works for me, and I think it'd make things so much easier. Plus, you can do things in volume. Because what you think we're going to get out of this 6 pounds of shredded cabbage, we're not going to get much because, like I said, it's going to break down. As it's breaking down, it's going to be taking out the oxygen. And that's what you're wanting to do. When you start plating and you start putting weights out, you want to remove that oxygen. You don't want to give it anything to really breathe. You're wanting it to ferment. You're not wanting it to breathe. And that's one of those steps of the science behind it. And I'm sorry that the video looks like it's rocket or something, and I think it's because I'm sitting at the table. But I wanted to sit down to talk to y'all about this. But it looks like we're getting to 30-minute mark. I'm going to go set the camera back up, and this is where we're going to kind of go fast through it. Because this is actually going to set, y'all, about 2 hours, what I'm doing. But I'm going to work with it. I'm going to add the seasonings. Remember I told you I'm coming in with a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, a teaspoon of mustard seed, and a teaspoon of caraway. Caraway, y'all. Go get you some. This is so healthy. I can't stress it enough. Now, this is the McCormick's organic brand. I'm not promoting this. I'm not saying this is what you have to use. But if you can get a quality one, I would recommend it. It goes a long ways, I guess, in a general household. This doesn't go a long ways here. Because, like I said, we use it for other purposes. We try to go natural, with the remedies. Because I think that building an immune system up in a natural way, in a natural form, just makes us a little bit more stronger for whatever's out there that we could possibly come in contact with. Okay, while I was talking to y'all, then I moved the camera. We're only about 15 minutes into it. And as you can see, it's extremely, extremely wet. Now all I've come in here, whoops, sorry. All I'm doing is moving this around. I really want this to sit a good 30 minutes before we come in with our seasoning. In about 30-35 minutes. Now I'm going to come in with a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. It's not going to make it hot, but it's going to give it a great flavor. Now I'm coming in with a teaspoon of mustard seeds. Now over time, these seeds will break down. You're not going to bite in and get a hard piece of, mustard seed. Caraway, if you don't do anything else. Caraway has got a really good earth tone to it. I want to say licorice, but it really doesn't, but it does. It's not, if you don't like licorice, you're not going to taste it. There's just something about the caraway. And that was a heaping teaspoon, okay? So I'm going to come in with my clean hands. Like I said, these are my tools. And I'm just going to move this around. And y'all, it has, look, you can see. It's broke down a good half. A good half. And that's all I'm going to do. Now, this sitting in this bowl now, and I'm going to come every 15 minutes and turn it. It's going to sit for 2 hours in this bowl before I ever move it to my fermenting glass. Okay? Like I said, I'm using a 2-gallon food-grade glass. I got to pull my sleeve up. So I'm not going to use this hand now because I don't know what was on my sleeve. And this is all I'm going to do. About every 15 minutes, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to turn it and move it around. And it's starting to hold water at the bottom. And that's what you want. We're trying to get this to break down. You remember now we're making carbohydrate. Carbohydrates feeds bacteria. Bacteria makes lactic acid. Well, if I keep saying that word throughout this video, that'd be a word I'll learn how to pronounce correctly. Well, pronounce for me. So, we got, about an hour and a half, because I said about 2 hours, so about an hour and a half. I'm going to come back and we're going to move to the glass jar. I do things a little bit different in my fermenting jar. It's been 2 hours in the bowl that you saw. Now I've got it over here in the 2-gallon glass, food grade, large ramekin. And all I'm going to do, this is just a wooden spoon. Now they do make a kraut press. They really do. A wooden spoon, y'all. And this one here is almost like a spoon, but it's got the sharpness. And this is where you're getting your mussels. For, I don't know, I've never actually timed it. But I'm going to do this a good 5 minutes. And then I'll stop, wait about 10 minutes, do it again for another 5 minutes, wait 10 minutes and another 5 minutes. Like I say, my process may be a little lengthy, but it is worth it. So it's 5 minutes of pounding, rest 10. 5 minutes of pounding, rest 10, 5 minutes of pounding. So you've got 15 minutes of pounding. And what you're doing is you're breaking up the cabbage, which is like a sponge, and you're making sure that all the brine will be coming through. And you're actually almost debubbling. You're getting the air out of it. Now, I'm not going to let you sit here and watch me do the whole. I'll actually come out and put my hands, and make sure you're using clean hands. And I'm going to pull up from the bottom and stir it around. And then I'm just going to get to pounding, y'all, for 5 minutes. And then once I get that done, I'll bring you back and show you actually how I cover it and what I use. Okay, y'all, it's been 45 minutes. Remember I said I pounded for 5, rested for 10. Pounded for 5, rested for 10, and so on. It's a total of 45 minutes. Now, I'm sure there are shorter methods. This is Miss Lippy's method. And you're not standing here the whole time. You're able to do a lot of stuff. What I'm trying to do is make sure that I don't have any particles on this glass. And that's why I prefer to use this. My first one was given to me probably 12, 14 years ago when they first come out from my mother-in-law for my birthday or something, because I had wanted one. And since then, matter of fact, she has actually got me the other two as well over the years, throughout the years, to give me my 3 because I do a whole lot of pickling and I make a lot of chow chow. All right, looks like we've got it all clean. But anyway, I prefer to use this because I can work in here. It's not confined for me. All right, we've got it packed down. Now we're going to come in with our cabbage leaves. And you want to make sure this is good and covered, okay? Now I did take the ribs out. You can work with the leaf a whole lot better. But you don't want any exposed kraut. So I kind of go a little heavy on the leaves, but why waste them? It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm just going to get these in here. Now I'm not going to store this at a window where the sun can hit it. It's going to be stored in a cool, dry place. Keep your temperature between 60 and 75 degrees. But you can see, if the camera's picking it up, you can see all the way around. You can then watch your kraut and know what is going on. Now this leaf I'm not happy with, so I'm going to come in and break it up because I really need this end covered. See y'all, you'll get spoiled. I'm just going to take this piece of rib out. It just doesn't want to work for me. Yeah, I am spoiled with these big glasses. Now, this is when you could come in with a plate. I actually don't have a glass plate, food grade plate that will actually fit in here. And, or you could actually come in with, well, I do a plate with some mason jars in it, just to weight it down. If you don't have weights, I'm using weights. But I've seen others do it all different ways. When I used to have an old set of dishes, I had one that actually fit down in here. And I just kind of turned it. It was more like a salad plate. It kind of bowed a little bit, but it would go in and fit just perfectly. I should have kept one of the plates. But I'm just using 4 weights. And I'm sure y'all have seen these weights, these fermenting weights. Now you can do this in a quart jar with the burpers, you know, that you can put on the jars, put your ring on. You don't have to do it in this volume. Like I said, it's because it's going to break down. It will go into a quart jar, probably within about 5 or 6 days. But the first 5 or 6 days to me is very crucial. You can see what is happening with your kraut like this. And that's when I'm going to have my husband taste it. He'll be able to tell how far he wants it to go. Now, a German kraut could sit 2 to 4 weeks. It gets, soft. He likes his soft with a little crunch. But within a week, if he says, okay, that's the flavor I want, that's when I'm going to put a lid on it in my quart jar, because this I actually fill up a quart jar. And I'm going to keep it in the refrigerator. It will keep 6 months. He's going to go through it, y'all, within about 2 months, because he uses it as a probiotic. Now, I'll use it as something on the side. Like I said, if we have, a brockwurst or something like that, I like to stew down my sauerkraut. But he'll actually take and eat about a tablespoon every morning as a probiotic. And so that's the purpose of this. And like I said, with the caraway, it's just doubling the probiotic. But at this point, now if you had a quart jar, you can use, they've got the screw-on lids that you can buy. They're not airtight, so, but just like this glass lid. You think this is airtight, but really it's not, because I've got it center and all I'm going to do is bring it over just a little bit. Doesn't actually have a crack, but it allows the gases to escape. And that's what you're wanting. So I'm going to have him come in and pick this up. We're going to move it to a dry location. And I tell you what, in one of my future videos, I'll show you the results, or I'll just do another short video with me transferring it into a quart jar. Matter of fact, I think I'll do that. So a week from now, we'll move it on into a quart jar. So you have your ingredients and you see this video, go ahead and start today. So in a week, we can work together and transfer it together to a quart jar. Y'all, this is really easy. Seems like a long process, but it's really not. I mean, you know, it's working 5 minutes here, 30 minutes here. 2 hours went by. I got a lot of things done. So I hope this video helped you understand a little bit of the science behind fermenting, or at least when it comes to sauerkraut. And try it. You know, if you like that little bit of sourness, that little bit of wang, this is delicious. It really is. So until next time, God bless you.